Great.
See.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome again to another episode and juncture of Closed Captions. I like staring at these beautiful black people who are sitting here before us. Closed Captions is a conversation that is held between the black man and black woman. And of course, you know I'm going to say stuff to make them laugh because they want to sit there like they militant. We out here in these streets. So what we're going to do real quick, have everybody go through and just introduce themselves however you feel you would like to introduce yourself, any social media, whatever the case may be, and what you do. And if you want to bypass on that, by all means do. We can start from right to left. My right. So here we go.
I'm Natasha. I'm a social worker. That's what I do, and that's my passion. Anything else?
Social media.
Oh, Natasha _Dezoni. That's DEZONIE. And I'm starting my new business, the Holistic _Living Project.
And it's dope, y'all. Shh, don't tell nobody.
Nah, tell everybody.
What's good, y'all? My name is Osiris Anthem. I am two-time world champion, end of the week hip-hop artist.
Woo woo. International type.
Yeah, something like. I also am a teaching artist, teach rap and poetry to middle school kids out in Queens. And yeah, Brooklyn, baby, Flatbush all day. Social media at Maroon Waters on Instagram, Maroon Waters, straight like that. And Osiris Anthem for everything else, OSYRISANTHAM.
Hello, I'm Janelle Naomi, and I am a learning specialist. I support students in special needs in charter schools. I am on everything at Janelle Naomi, that's JANELLENAOMI. And I just launched JanelleNaomi.com, so you can check me out there as well.
My name is Issa Kari, and I'm a street photographer and visual journalist.
Perfect. So what we're going to do at this point, we're going to start with one topic. Anybody who's done this before, almost all of y'all have done one before. Simple, fairly easy. The topic for today that we're going to jump into is, am I my brother's/sister's keeper? And we're going to let y'all free for all with that. But we're going to start it off with a topic that recently happened. The McDonald's situation.
As soon as I saw the topic, I was like, I know where this came from.
So, y'all saw a video recently of a young black woman in McDonald's being approached by a white man, and he reached over and grabbed her, and then she had to let loose on him.
Yeah.
And although she handled her own exceptionally well, there were other men present. Specifically, there was a young black man that some people saw, and a question came up as to whether or not he should have intervened and or helped, or was he too scared about losing his job? And then the question for you guys is, to what extent are we our brother/sister's keeper? When do we intervene? Do we have to intervene in any situation, not just fighting, but anything? So we can start with anybody who wants to interject, throw something out there.
Don't jump all in at the same time now.
No, all right, I'll start it off. On multiple levels, I had some issues with the clip. Now, I don't have full context. I didn't really go too much into detail. It looks like another video where black people was defending themselves and it go viral. But being that I work in retail, it was the aspect of this young black woman having to deal with a hostile customer, which for me, I've seen several times. I've worked security in retail, and I'm also a front-end manager at my job. And so personally, how I looked at it, it was incompetence, one, from a group unit as the workforce to allow it to escalate to that point, and also from the manager's standpoint to not intervene before it got to that point. So, it's not really for me, much of a discussion. It's incompetence from the workplace as well as the unit as a whole for those coworkers.
Okay. Anybody else want to add on to that?
I'll add one. I think in the answering the question, am I my brother's assist keeper? Definitely yes. Every context is different, and it really does. I've encountered different things where I'm like, dang, I should have did more, or maybe I shouldn't have stepped up in that situation. I'm not familiar at all with the McDonald's situation, so this is all news to me. Been taking a break from social media, but I know for me personally, I've encountered experiences specifically when I first moved up to New York where somebody was just like very verbally disrespectful to me on the train, and I looked around at the other brothers that were on the train, half expecting someone to, as I'm cursing this person out, to be like, yo, chill, don't talk to her like that. And I didn't have that experience. And I know that not having that support from brothers on the train, just as I'm trying to get to my destination, get to work, made me feel very vulnerable. And so I hope that I can be that support if the moment calls for it. So that's my stance.
I mean, first of all, I mean, I thought it was dope that she defended herself the way she did. You know, she was definitely putting some hands on him. I thought it was interesting. Like, you know, in those situations, you never really know like how to react. You know what I mean? Like, I worked retail before as well, and sometimes you have situations where there's an altercation between you and a customer, or maybe between your coworker and a customer, and you know that you're not really sure how to respond to that situation sometimes. You know, when I first saw that the young brother was trying to pull her off first, the fact that his instinct, because you didn't see the video either. Mm-hmm. So in the video, as they were describing, this white guy was yelling at this black girl about something to do with like a straw or some shit, and he just yanked her, pulled her down to the table, and then she starts like, you know, wailing on his head, and then her coworker comes and tries to pull her off first, and then he goes around after he realizes he can't get her off, and he tries to pull a white guy off of her. And so, you know, I didn't like that. That was his first instinct, to pull him off, to pull her off him. Like his first, in my opinion, my first instinct, I would hope, would be to pull that white dude off of her, give that white dude work. And so that definitely made me feel some type of way. But I think context really matters. Like it's hard to sit here and say what he should have done. I don't know who he is, what his relationship with her is. I don't know what history there was there. But, you know, I think I'm glad he eventually did pull homeboy off of her. You know, I'm glad that happened. So, yeah.
I didn't see the video, but I think we have a trend of black women and black men just being attacked and just videoing it, and no one is helping. Like, who's videoing? Like,
Yeah.
I feel some type of way about that. Even I think it was last year, there's a young girl being attacked by 20 dudes, and people videoing that and putting it, and it went viral. So I have a problem just videoing when somebody literally being like fighting for their life. So it's unfortunate, and I don't feel like we are a brother's keeper. We should be, but it's not the reality.
Okay. So from what I'm gathering, at least for the most part, there are certain circumstances that would come up where you should be your brother's keeper, sister's keeper. If you were in the scenario, and I know you said you didn't actually see what happened, but you heard the description, basically, of what happened. I want each of you to give your idea and or concept of what you specifically would have done had you been right next to her while this was happening.
So me having a background in security, I've been in situations like that, and so my stance is always to prevent, to de-escalate before it even gets to that point. Because once you get to that point, it's really, you know, people's jobs are on the line, people are getting hurt, lawsuits, all kind of stuff gets out of hand. So, like I said earlier, from a management standpoint, being that the manager was present, it should have never got to that level. But if we're gonna take it outside of the context, let's say I'm a coworker. Honestly, I would again try to do something preemptive. I would have brought the manager over before it even got to that point. But if we're talking about what am I going to do once I start seeing hands, fists, and feet and hands and grabbing and everything going on, the first thing to do is just to separate them. Not necessarily to cause more harm on anyone, but to just separate the two. Because if you got to put yourself into the context of people working at McDonald's, they don't need to lose their job. You know what I'm saying? Like a couple punches to a white man for putting his hands on a young girl is not going to go and save the world. At the same time, you want to make sure that sister don't get hurt. And so I would simply restrain the guy. That would be my first instinct.
Okay.
And I feel like there's like a lot of like interpersonal context that you have to have before you can judge a situation like that. Because if that's a coworker that you got mad love for, your first instinct may be like, oh, nah, son is wild. Let me hit him over the head with this. If that's the coworker that you don't like, like, oh, what's going on here? Crazy, you know what I mean? Like, so like stuff like that actually changes things. You know what I mean? Like
being
completely
honest. Like
yeah,
that's the reality. Like if we being responsible with it, like yeah, we're gonna give you a certain answer, but as security, I've let things go a lot further than they needed to go, just because that coworker run their mouth too much. And like if the customer get one punch in, then I'm probably gonna let the first punch go through, but after that I'll break it up. So I mean, context is very important when it comes to, like you said, the relationships.
Absolutely.
Do y'all agree? I like how the heads all turn.
I mean, I think context definitely matters. I also think in the context of myself, I'm 110 pounds. Like, I'm not about to separate nobody. You know what I mean? Like, my first instinct, definitely if I'm in a position of needing this job, that gets tricky, but I'm gonna grab something. That's my first instinct. I'm trying to find what can I use as a weapon first, because at the end of the day, like, it's a woman. Like, you don't got to do all of that. I don't know. I didn't see the video. I don't know how far it went on the male's part, but that's always my thing of like, what's around me that I can use real quick, because I don't have time to be calculating how I can use my hands. They may not, work on the first time. So, I'm not trained in any type of martial arts or anything like that. So I'm just looking on what I can grab, and if I see that the sister is getting hurt, like, I'm definitely gonna be like, yo, stop, and then I'm looking for something to knock heads, because I don't have time for that. So that's my
thought.
Yeah, likewise, because again, I'm a little person, so I'm not gonna try to fight nobody. I'll hit him or her with something, I guess.
And then on the other hand, if that was the 12th time they seen her beat somebody's ass, they probably like, oh, nah, she wilding again. You feel me? I'm not trying to like take giving like the opposite perspective. You feel me?
Yeah, I definitely had coworkers who were just like always yapping and causing issue, and so you don't really necessarily want to enable a person who's always getting into it with people by backing them up because they think you're condoning their activity. So again, management is never supposed to let that ever go to that point.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me give y'all some of my experience, just because I used to work for McDonald's when I was in high school, right? So typically, I know, I suffered. So typically, and I ain't even gonna talk about how long ago that was and how much minimum wage that was at the time. It was ridiculous. But anyway, no, it was less than that, bro. It was $4.25. Yeah, so anyway,
he old.
So management typically management won't get involved with most things, specifically in certain job sectors. Fast food, it's like a toss-up whether or not somebody's going to get involved, and 9 times out of 10 they never see what happens, right? So ignoring that, let's say we just co-workers there, and there's no beef, no animosity between each other. I remember when I was at the McDonald's one day, it was a couple, it was 2 white girls that came in, and a coworker came in, or a coworker was at the register. We would take turns. It was later at night, take turns on who was going to get the next customer, because we trying to divvy up the work evenly. So it was a one white girl who was with us, 2 black dudes, 1 white girl, and then 2 white girls came in, so she had to take them. Just so happened the only register that was open was a register you had to slam shut, right? Whenever you took money. So she slammed it shut. They thought she had an attitude. So they asked for a courtesy cup. Courtesy cup, you get free water. They get the cup. She hands it to them. As soon as she hands it to them, they throw it in her face. She goes to the back. She gets a corkscrew. She hops the counter. They run out, and she's chasing them. Eventually, the cops come. So let's say you're in a situation, but this is a black girl that this happens to. And it's a dude, white dude, who throws water in her face. And now she's hopping after the dude. Do you join her or do you let her go?
I feel like I'm too equipped to answer these questions.
No, you're not. You're not too equipped.
Because as soon as the water gets thrown, they leaving.
Okay, so you would handle that, is what you're saying.
Again, I was the sole security in the supermarket for 7 years. I done broke up fights from all kinds of stuff. So me personally, as soon as the water gets thrown, I'm making sure she doesn't hop the counter because that's my first reaction. She gonna wild out. I'm not gonna let her do that and lose her job.
Now,
second part of that is
there you go.
Y'all gotta go. Plain and simple. Now they may cause a ruckus or whatever, but I can handle myself. I ain't scared to take a punch. Yo, y'all gonna leave, or I'm gonna make y'all leave. Plain and simple.
Oh, so you thug out here in these streets.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Just saying.
Completely joking.
Because then what always happens from there is stuff start getting damaged. So
that's true.
They're gonna start damaging property. They're gonna start throwing stuff. We got other customers in the store. It's gonna get way out of hand. So they gotta leave.
Now, let's all keep that in mind. I'm gonna add a little twist to it. Let's say this isn't just a coworker, but this is somebody who you're either a best friend or family that you're on good terms with, instead of just some random person that you work with. So let's say there's a personal attachment to this person. Do you still approach it the same way?
Same scenario.
Okay. Janelle, you think same scenario? How would you approach it if it's somebody who you're not necessarily close with, and then who's somebody you're actually very close with?
I think I would approach it the same way. That I would probably try my best to defend that person. I'm not sure the way that I would. That is very hard for me to, I guess, think about. I've worked at Starbucks before, and I was a barista, so I didn't really have to, I don't know, like I'm handling hot water and stuff, like you're not about to, you know, like I feel like that would be my defense. I don't know, this is very difficult for me to like think about. I haven't had these experiences where I feel like in a retail space, in the streets I've had these experiences, but the job being on the line is not what I have experienced. I also, when I was working in retail spaces, because I worked at Victoria's Secret and I worked at Starbucks, those were the two. Both instances, I really did feel like I could quit at any time and it wouldn't be a problem. I'm grateful I had like a real soft place to land that if I quit those jobs, it wouldn't be no problem. So that's not my experience where I would have had to be like, oh, let me think about my reaction. My reaction would be automatic, and I know that my family would have supported me if that was the case. So I'm coming from that place of, I guess, privilege that I wouldn't hesitate. I would be like, all right, what we about to do? Because this is, you know, like I'm for the people. I cannot, I don't know. It's really hard for me to like distance myself in a professional way. And then to go further, I also now am in a space where I'm teaching. So like, if I feel like it was a parent to come up to the school and try and beat up another teacher or something like that, like I would still be in a space of like, let me protect those who matter, which would be the child in that case. So I don't know if I'm answering the question, but
no,
it's hard for me to put myself in that space. But I think for me, I would defend.
Okay.
In both situations.
I feel like if it wasn't somebody that I was close with, it would be very different than if it was somebody I was close with. So if somebody I have no issues with, and you know, and every situation, Starbucks is my longest like individual retail experience. So I'm just imagining anything as if I was behind that line at Starbucks. And like if it was a coworker I didn't have an issue with, I would probably, because I'm naturally protective of people that I'm like close to, And so I would definitely black on whoever. Like, I'm gonna curse you out. I'm gonna degrade you, like just verbally. I'm gonna make you feel like shit and make you want to fight me. I'm gonna make sure you leave. Like you're not gonna be in my space. Like I never had experiences where a coworker was attacked, but I definitely had experiences where a coworker was like condescended, and I don't stand for that.
Okay.
If it was somebody that I'm actually close to, most likely it would get physical. You feel me? Because you made a physical attack on somebody I'm close to, so I'm gonna make a physical attack on you. Whether that's me hitting you over the head with one of the blenders, whether that's me coming around and putting you in a chokehold and dragging you out the store, like it's gonna get crazy naturally because I'm close to that person. And I think what you said about transition is if it was a teaching space, we'll probably make it a little different because the teaching space is way more personal than a retail space. And so it's like I care about these students, and I know my coworker cares about these students, and my coworker is a protector of these students. So even if me and you are not close, I'm not standing for anybody coming in and putting hands on a fellow protector of the kids in this space. And so even if I don't like you, I think I would still be on some that's not going down because it's a different space rather than we all this retail spot trying to get some bread.
Right.
You feel me? And so I think the context is really important. Word. And honestly, because obviously the overarching, you want to see me? I know the overarching point is like, as Black people, how do you feel about this? And for me personally, whether you Black or you white and you are in my space and we're working together, Indian, whatever you are, I feel like I would be naturally protective, but I'm not sure. I don't know what other questions y'all have, but I feel like I don't know how to unlock that space of like, how should we address that? Like, I'm not sure. You know
I
what I
actually
mean?
got an instance that I can bring up. You want to do it?
I'll defend whether I know you or not. I guess I value like right is right and wrong is wrong, and that's just straight up wrong and disrespectful. So I'll be, whether it's verbally, physically, I don't know, in that moment, like fall pop out of me. But I'll definitely defend that person, even if we're not close or there's no attachment.
Okay, so I guess the general consensus is that it would be ended in some shape, form, or fashion, whether it's civilly or uncivilly.
Definitely.
But okay, so what did you want to?
So it was maybe, I'm gonna say about 3 or 4 years ago, right? Now, because at this point, I'm no longer security, but I guess the best way to translate it to y'all is I'm front end manager, right? Customers complaining about a sale sign. He said he seen something on sale. When he got to the register, it's not ringing up. Turns out the sale was like last week's sale, but it happened to be sitting on top of the shelf. It wasn't even like set up for display, but it was just sitting on the shelf. So he's complaining or whatever. I get back I go check the register. I come back and I was like, it's not on sale. And he immediately takes, I think it was chock full of nuts. He takes it, slams it at the cash register. It bounces off the cash register and like rattles, bounces around and stuff. It doesn't hit anybody. But the cashier that was working was a sister, right? And she's from the hood, so right out the gate, I already know what her reaction is gonna be. So when he slammed it, the first thing I do is I made eye contact with her and I'm like, chill. So the context to it though is because I talked to all my coworkers, never to get into it with any of the customers. Let me handle it because they're not gonna fire me. I know where the boundaries are for getting fired. And at the same time, I'll usually bait a customer. If they're being belligerent, I'll bait them so that I can kick them out. I'm never gonna let a situation get out of hand where there's a whole bunch of yelling. And so when this guy did it, I told him he's 2 seconds from getting thrown the fuck out of here. Straight like that. That's how I talk to the customer. Let him know, like, I'm not playing with you. And so in that situation, my first reaction is to kind of, if I needed to grab her, because I didn't know, it was such a quick instance where he threw this can, it could have hit another customer, it could have hit her. And so because I'm equipped, I've been in so many situations with people doing stuff, my reaction time is really quick and I kind of know what I'm gonna do if something were to get out of hand like that. For the average person, when you ask them what would they do if a fight breaks out at work, most employers don't even have a game plan for things happening like that. They have security to take care of that. And so, like, if we in New York City, most of the spots have security. There's McDonald's with security in them because so many instances like this have happened. Mm-hmm. For y'all working in an average retail spot, right, or at a school, like, you don't necessarily have school safety in all locations. Mm-hmm. Most of the bad schools do, but for the most part, if an instance broke out at parent-teacher night, school safety ain't sitting right there. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you asking people for situations that they're not really equipped because we don't expect these things to happen. Mm-hmm. And so, in the context of us as Black folks, how do we handle it? I think you handle it from a professional standpoint as much as you can in that situation. But if the conversation is about us as a whole in society, I think we have to be vigilant to understand that for the most part, we all we got. So in these situations where we interacting with multicultural people, because even Black folks, like the West Indian folks got a different culture than the Black Americans. So if something happened between two West Indians, the West Indians are more likely to band together if they recognize that person from an island than they would Black folks. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So from a standpoint, me personally, I'm down to ride for anybody. Unless you acting crazy on the bus or the train or the store, like you out here wilding, you on your own then. But if you ain't in the wrong and I see somebody trying to jump on you, it's not going down while I'm there. You know what I'm saying? I'm willing to go and put myself on the line for my people. But if someone decides that, like Janelle said, she's only 110 pounds, I'm not gonna knock her for not jumping in the middle or something.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't go and condemn her and be like, yo, you can't come to the cookout because you let some girl get jumped on it and we see you on video, it went viral. Like, I'm like, nah, I can't hold you.
I would like to address that. I said that I would grab something.
I would grab something.
Because I know my strengths and I know where I'm not. Mm-hmm. And physical violence is not an area that I feel
comfortable with.
Yeah, like I'm not going to excel in that, but I do got a bat by the door, like of my house. Like I have, you know what I mean? Like I'm really going to try. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not just going to let it happen, but I know that if it's just me in these hands, it's probably not going to go well for me. So I don't. Yeah, that's all. But I'm gonna try my best.
Hey, even like I said, even if you didn't do nothing, it's not. I ain't gonna be like, yo, you can't come to the cookout no more. You're not rocking with Janelle because she let somebody get jumped on. Like, nah, that's not realistic.
Okay, so let's look at it. Let's dial it back, and in dialing it back, we're gonna transition into a relative topic. Now, it's still the same thing, but I want y'all each to give me a definition what you feel my brother or sister's keeper means to you. Like, what does it specifically mean to you? And because y'all just went, we'll start with you.
My brother or sister's keeper.
Mm-hmm.
It depends who's asking me that. If a Black person is asking me that,
we discussing in terms of our relation to other Black people.
Okay.
In general. So let's just leave that as the overall.
I think that means just looking out for fellow Black folks. You know what I mean? Looking out for our brothers, looking out for our sisters in different ways. I think that requires like maybe advocacy in certain ways, being conscious of representation in certain ways. There are times where I feel like as an artist, I have to make sure I'm brave enough to do certain things because my position as an artist, I'm going to reflect, especially I'm a teaching artist, but also rap for a tour bus in Midtown. And like 95% of the people who watch me perform are white people or like people just from other countries. And so they just have most likely stereotypical ideas of what a Black person is. And so sometimes I'm like, most of the time I'm like, I'm going to like rap my ass off and show out. So it's like, all right, whatever you thought you was going to get by seeing my Black ass here, I'm going to show you that I'm better than anybody that you think is doing this, no matter what race they are. You feel me? I think also in certain ways, like today one of my coworkers said something, this is recorded, I don't want to say too much. One of my coworkers said something that was just like a little, and she's not Black. And she said something about something to do with, one of the students did something because it's their culture. And I'm just like, nah. Like, I didn't want to say anything, but I was like, nah, like, that has nothing to do with culture. That's just, like, she had this picture that she had painted in her head about I guess because she's black, this is what she does. And it was like, it had nothing to do with her being from a culture. It just had to do with who she was as an individual. And I didn't want to let that idea fester. And so I felt like in that moment, that was me being like a keeper to other black folks, because it's just like, whatever you think that was, that's not what it is. You feel me? Like, those are small situations, but just looking out for each other. Yeah, sorry, talking long.
No, that was good. Actually, I appreciate that. So, Natasha, we're gonna hit you next.
Definitely looking out for each other, holding each other accountable. I would say unity, moving as one. So those are some of the key values that, we don't have to be from the same background. I'm Caribbean, but still, you got same skin color as me. We brothers, we sisters. So.
Okay. Janelle.
I echo everything that's been said. I think it's levels to keeping one another, right? And so I also think about, if I see that you're doing something wrong that might be harmful to you, that may have been taught by this culture that we're in, I'm gonna show you, tell you, enlighten you in some way of what is another possible way, a more healthy way, a more uplifting way for yourself. As I'm learning to uplift and hold myself accountable. So I think in addition to what has been said, that's another aspect that I hope to hold, space for my brother and sister by keeping them in those ways.
Okay. So
I definitely agree with everything that they're saying, and personally for me, being involved with so much from activism, community organizing, with the artists, the art scene, and then just how I grew up, growing up in the hood and having to navigate the streets, and being a square, but still willing to go and have to take care of stuff on my own. And so it's like this fine line, and all these, when I look at everything that I went through, a lot of it, I noticed that the elders are not there present. So when I think about my brother's keeper, it goes from a level of me kind of trying to be an intermediary, whether it's between different scenes, whether it's the art scene and the activist scene and the pro-black scene, or if it's just dropping gems for the youth. You know what I'm saying? Because I remember coming up, not having enough older people reaching out and trying to drop gems. So I remember going through this time where I was just lost and having just trying to figure it out. And if some older cat would have came to me and dropped certain gems about business, I probably wouldn't have took so long. I wouldn't have to work for millionaires from another culture to kind of pick up this game. And then so, most people know me for always just talking about the little intricate details of business, So when I look at my brother's keeper, it's just like being in this scene where we got all these people trying to come together. It's like taking a little bit of things that I know and just dropping it, free of charge. I don't really look for no reciprocation. Just like, yo, you doing this? Like, have you tried this? Or if I got knowledge of something that's going on in another scene, and I'd be like, yo, this is what's going on over here. Here's some resources over here. So not just from a level of like, physical safety, but also from a standpoint of business or emotional, or just making sure that our people have the resources that they need, so that when the pressures and the stress of the society starts to compile upon them, they don't go through these issues where we don't know what's on with that sister, what she was going through, where she might have went to a boiling point and lashed out or said something to that customer, and that customer, being an asshole, might have lashed out back. And so when I think of being each other's keeper, it's just checking on people, like, how you doing today? Like, is everything good? Because that sometimes changes the trajectory of someone's life. Always just trying to connect and say, yo, how are you doing today? What's going on? And you know what? You're going through something, well, I know somebody who can help you with that. Because there's been times where I wish I would have had that in my life. And so those little things, dropping those little gems and talking to people and connecting with them from a standpoint of community, that's what we're looking for. When we always say it takes a village, well, the village has those little things in it. It's like kind of like bartering. Like, yo, you got this resource? Yo, let me go holler at Osiris, because I know Osiris, he knows some people that deal with this. And so, yo, you come over here and meet my boy Osiris. And since Osiris has done the same thing for me, without even asking, like, yo, this dude, he's a dope photographer. So I think that is the aspect that we should, really focus on, and not not get so caught up in the viral moments that go online.
Okay.
So, you know.
I like that. So let's say mediation, protection, enlightenment / education, and then community. Let's pull it together in that. So let's take that, specifically the word community, right? And when you think about community, you think about everybody looking out for each other, helping each other in some shape, form, or fashion. Very good. See? So let's talk about R. Kelly.
What about it?
I know that was good.
Let's talk about.
I've done my studies last night.
Let's talk about. We all know the general guilt that has been admitted visually through tape and other formats from R. Kelly. So we don't even have to discuss his specific guilt. For the most part, I don't think anybody's going to disagree that he hasn't done or has done this stuff. But what I want to talk about is something that typically, recently I've seen more so in social media. There are a lot of Black women specifically feeling unprotected because they wind up in situations like this. Now I'm going to loop that with Black men because then there's not even a contrast, but there's a parallel. So we know we're looking at underage children being taken advantage of, right? And to some extent, you would assume communities should have some sort of responsibility and protection. Do you feel there is a lack of protection for young Black boys to the same respect as young Black girls? And then at the same time, do you think there is a lack of accountability to those who are committing these crimes and those who are complicit in the commitment of these crimes? So, example, R. Kelly committed the crime, but there were people who allowed these things to happen, who knew they were happening and still may or may not have brought their children around R. Kelly. To what extent do you feel, as a community, we are our brothers and sisters keeper in situations like that? Anybody can jump in on that one and start. Like, do you feel there's a certain level of responsibility for people who know what's going on to say something, speak out, stop it? Do you feel there was enough done in this specific scenario? Because this is something that's been talked about for, maybe 20 years? About 20 years or so? So it's been out there for a while. So with that all being out there and being known, how has it persisted this long? Who dropped the ball? Where was the ball dropped, in your opinion?
I'd like to start.
Go ahead.
You asked, do I feel like there are, I'm sorry. Okay, there are, like, boys versus girls, that question. I think girls are not protected in the same ways that boys are protected, so it's I think they're harmed more regularly in different ways. Boys are given, and this is very general, but Black boys are given, I think it was Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. He's an educator and really, really phenomenal theorist about Black education in America. But he talks about how Black boys are raised and something, I'm messing it up. But basically, Black boys get to grow up versus Black girls get to be raised. And I think that difference comes into where Black girls are given chores versus Black boys may not be given. And I didn't grow up in a household with boys, but I've heard stories where it's very regular that Black boys are not held accountable in the same ways that their Black female counterparts are. So the girl may have an earlier curfew, or the girl may have more chores, or the girl may be expected to cook or make sure that your brother has a plate versus the boy may not have those same responsibilities. And I think that it is putting Black girls in a space of servitude and Black boys in a space of complacency and not like trying to work as hard, and that does translate into their adulthood and the dynamics that we may have between Black women and Black men. in this country specifically. As far as like people being held accountable, I don't think that we hold people accountable, especially in our community. I think those who are raised up to certain heights because of their accomplishments are given passes because of their accomplishments. So that looks like Dr. King has a lot of female friends and nobody is holding this man accountable, even though they know that he's cheating on Coretta. That looks like Marion Barry is using cocaine and he's a great mayor of my great city, but he is like a drug addict and like bless his soul, but like he was doing a lot of wrong things while on cocaine and that's not okay. You know what I mean? So we don't hold our people accountable, and the reason is because we don't have a lot of people, haven't been able to have a lot of people who rise to certain levels of excellence in this country because of the overwhelming amount of things, people, and laws against us as a people. And so because of that, even with Bill Cosby, people knew what was going on for years, but no one was going to hold this man accountable because he's Bill Cosby. Like, you can't, you know what I mean? And so we feel like there's this line that, oh, you can't do that because they're this person, and we don't have a lot. And so I'm gonna just let that brother pass because we need to visually see something positive, and we don't have enough of it. That's my thoughts.
Real quick, before anybody else jumps in, do you think the people who, let's say in the Bill Cosby scenario, who said that's Bill Cosby, even though they knew what he was doing, do you feel they're just as guilty?
I think they're just afraid. Bill Cosby had a lot of power, and like, he did these horrible things, but he did a lot of great things too. And if you had his name or his stamp of approval, a lot of doors open for you as an artist or as whatever you wanted to do. And so I think that the fear of being shut out by him is what caused them to do what they did. And that doesn't excuse it, but I do think fear is what prompted their inaction more than I'm just gonna turn a blind eye because I don't care. But that's my thought and the way that I see it based on like the power that he had. I see him as a person who had a lot of power, and that power being held over people can make them say, I just gotta go with the punches.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just me extending more on the point of view. Now, Cyrus, I'm gonna ask you a question. All right. So
don't mind, I'm taking notes. So
no, that's fine.
Yeah.
So let's piggyback off of what Janelle just said, right? So we have people who are blatantly doing things, but maybe in a position of power, and some people are scared to speak out to that power because of maybe what the repercussions might be. Let's look at the system today, where if you commit a crime and somebody commits a crime and you're with that person, you then become an accomplice. Do you feel people should be looked at as accomplices to those crimes if they're around the people who are committing those crimes and not necessarily doing anything about it, despite the power that they may exhibit to ruin that person or do anything? Should that person still risk whatever losses may come by speaking out? Or are they going to just sit there? Or you feel they should just be an accomplice? Or do you feel they are an accomplice?
I don't know. It's hard to put a general stamp on that. I think in certain situations, it's easy for somebody to be an accomplice, or easy for somebody to be complicit through silence. I think in certain situations, though, it's not as cut and dry. Remember when that kid got killed in that bodega?
Yeah.
And then a lot of people were like calling for the heads of bodega owners. That situation kind of reminds me of this in a way, because it's like, yo, people, like we were talking about earlier, people aren't built to challenge power. Nobody's raised in this country, at least, like Spartans were raised in the movie 300. You feel me? Like, people be afraid to jump turnstiles or ask their boss for a raise or ask they crush for her number. Like, So if you see somebody who's rich and has power and is a master manipulator, like doing salacious shit in front of you, and they're so good at it that you're not even sure what's actually
going on.
Straight up.
It could be, that's like a daunting task. You feel me? Like, okay, I'm playing Call of Duty in survival mode and I'm like, okay. It's like, and I'm not excusing, because when I was watching the documentary yesterday, especially this dude, his name was Craig something. Like, he thought he was hilarious. But I'm like, yo, bro, you sitting here, like, you watched a lot of this shit happen. But at the same time, it's like, R. Kelly was really smart about his shit. You feel me? And he was on some, oh yeah, we just got her in the studio singing. So don't worry about that. And then people will probably pop up and then just see them singing. And maybe one time they would see something that might have been fishy. But then it's easy for you to put it away in your head when you're not sure what's going on. And as well, something that's very important, now in social media era, if something is an issue, it becomes an issue in everybody's brain. But before that, not just because something was an issue for an individual person or for a couple people, would it be a nationwide issue? So if Harvey Weinstein is pulling his dick out in front, am I allowed to?
You are perfectly fine.
You gonna ask
We're
12
adults.
curses in? Go ahead.
So if Harvey Weinstein or Louis C.K. is pulling their dick out, forcing themselves on people in 1995, maybe that person tells 2 people, and maybe 13 people find out, maybe. You feel me? And then there's no broad idea that this is wrong. There's only 13 people, and Harvey Weinstein is stronger than 13 people. Now, if you put that on Facebook, that's gonna go viral instantly, and now there's 13 million people who are your judge and jury, and now that there's a society built around, instantly there's a society built around that specific idea that what you did is wrong. Back then, like, it was hard for people. So to get back to your question, are you an accomplice? You're not invited to the cookout, but I don't think you should go to prison. You feel me? Like, yeah, if people don't want to fuck with you, you should understand why people don't want to fuck with you. If nobody wants to, hang out with you, or people think that you're wrong for what you did, absolutely. Should you go to prison? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I can't say you shouldn't, but I can't say you should. Then there has to be a lot more conversation involved in that. But specifically in like any person of power's position, like, it's hard to fight power. It's hard to bring it back to that big bodega. It's hard to be like some regular nigga buying a bag of chips. And like, oh, gangbangers with machetes? I'm ready for that. No, you're not ready for that. You feel me? R. Kelly, the most powerful person in my city right now, who's putting money in my pocket, is hanging out with these girls and nobody else is saying anything. The girls seem like they cool with it.
They parents seem like
they cool with it. I'm just gonna get my bread and keep it moving because this is the fattest check I ever seen. It doesn't make it right. It's not right. But when there's no overarching reason for you to say, like, there's nothing to escape to when there's no overarching reason. So you do the right thing, and now you broke working at McDonald's again.
True.
And now also maybe R. Kelly is putting a hit out on you because you threatened his whole situation. It's much easier for you to be like, all right, let me just keep my mouth shut and keep it bumping, And so I don't know. It's a really great area.
Okay. I'm actually gonna warp the question a little for you. You still tie it in because it's gonna be relative. And I know we're winding down a little bit on the time, so we're gonna close it out shortly and then get to our remix section, which I'll talk to you about.
Something you said about
Go ahead.
community. I feel like who dropped the ball? The community dropped the ball. The parents dropped the ball. I feel like when you come on to sexual trauma, because I'm a sexual trauma survivor, we don't have any system in place to make sure this does not happen. The victims are victimized. The person that does is demonized, and that's the trend. Demonize and victimize. So I feel like we need to come up with a community to have some type of a plan, not only for the victims but also for the ones that are doing it, because that's generational trauma. These are slave behaviors that have been passed down from our masters to us, and that's why these behaviors are continuing. And until we have some type of plan, some type of system to stop it, then it's going to be the same story over and over. Victims, Me Too, and all that type of thing. So.
Okay. To the point, just want to add 2 more things. To the point where she said, in the beginning of the documentary, and he spoke on it before, he was molested by his own family members.
Right.
at the age of, he said,
it's a
what is it,
learned
from like
behavior.
9 to 13 or something like that?
Which are his
You know,
development.
and that doesn't excuse what he's done at
It
all.
doesn't
He's still a
excuse, but
scumbag
it's-
for what he did. But it's like, that's,
It's a generational
you
trauma.
see where the seed started. And what
Mhm.
about that person?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then what about that person?
Yep.
Who was before them?
Mm-hmm.
And then also, I wanted to touch on the point of sometimes when something happens in the Black community, I feel like we automatically say it's our problem and it's an issue that we need to deal with. And I feel like sometimes it's posed as an issue that other cultures have dealt with and are better at than us.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like that angle,
Yeah.
because honestly, growing up, pedophilia was always attached to white people.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me? Like, that was the stereotype,
Mhm.
you know? And I think it's important to remember that it's not right, we need to fix it. But across all cultures, women are victims. And across all cultures, women are not treated right by the men in their culture. And so it absolutely has to be addressed. As Black men, we do need to address it. But I think it's always important to put the asterisk, remember, it's not a Black male issue and not anybody. I just always feel like
There's a
sometimes
focus.
when you're as a Black man, like, I can accept it, but I feel like as a Black man, sometimes you could feel like, or as a Black person, whether it's a Black man or Black woman, sometimes people say Black women, just and a third. As Black people, I don't think we should just hold things as this is an issue that only we have, and this is why we're falling back, because it's not only our issue. And that's the only two things I was wanting to say.
Okay. Let me tie this question in, since you already did that, so I'll bring it to you. One of the things that I did also notice on social media was people saying that in our community we tend to overlook certain things, and that's how this stuff happens. And a lot of people brought up the point that, hey, when I was in high school, I used to see some of these girls in high school getting picked up by dudes in their 20s. And it was just like regular behavior, and nobody said anything about it. Like, when you think of stuff that, like, if you think of something like that and you go back in your mind, would your perspective on that change now as opposed to how you may have perceived it back then? And if so, what would you perceive of something like that now? Like, what would your thought process be? Seeing a young girl getting picked up by somebody who's more than likely not their family member, that's significantly older than them and not in high school. Or could be their family
Yeah,
member.
but I know what you mean.
Not that type of family member, right?
It's a layered question, man.
Peel them back.
It's a really, really layered question. It goes to multiple things, man. Like, even the topic, like, I really honestly can't answer your question because of the things that have been revealed to me, right? Because it's like trying to deal with the symptoms instead of the disease. Even the topic where you're saying community and our community. Community is a group of people who have common customs and traditions. The reality is we are the same community as the people that we warn with. If we try to make it a black and white thing, we share the same culture as them. We're Americans. We can call ourselves African Americans or black or whatever it is, but our culture is their culture. And until we start to get away from their culture, we can't even start healing ourselves. We suffer from the same stuff they do. They just benefit better from the society that we're in. The society ain't built for us to survive. And then we got all their ailments. So we got it twice as bad. And so when we think about, like, I wanted to drop a dime because I don't know if you guys have ever looked at the sex offender list. You can look up the sex offender list for your area.
In your area.
It's the most sickening thing that you would ever see, because I looked at it while I was at work and I seen people that shop in the store every day. You know what I'm saying? And then I went to search to my block, and I started to recognize some of the people in my neighborhood that are on that sex offender list. And then the amount of the names of the crimes that they were doing is crazy. You know? From that standpoint, if we talk about black men trying to create a culture where we're protecting black women, the problem is that there are a lot of black men that have already committed these crimes. So then they have guilt, they have trauma that they've already dealt with. And you know, a lot of times when someone goes through things, they go into denial. So if you're asking a black man who's been traumatized by sexual assault to step up and stop sexual assault from someone else, he's going to be triggered. So then we got to deal with the psychology of what's been going on in our community for hundreds of years. We already know all the things that's been going on with rape, with
Yeah,
The,
don't
the,
treat
the
me.
It's just
whole
too much.
everything.
I
It
mean,
is.
we did it.
Yeah.
Like in my head, I'm looking at. I got all this stuff in my head right now. All the names of the things that have been going on, all the victims, me being attached to the Black Lives Matter movement, or the killings. Like we got so much layers that go to this, right?
Mhm.
And so the easiest thing to do is to build with people that are on the same page, and then do what we're doing and start talking about a plan,
Mhm.
because we can't stop these things from happening. These, like, if we keep having these conversations about this went viral and that went viral, it's cool to have the conversations. And someone who doesn't have black people around them, this is good for them, right? They can say, all right, there's some people who think like me. But for us who are all concentrated in the area and we can go and congregate like this, we got to start devising a plan, because we got to plant the seeds for the next generation about how we protect them. Because, like I said, if we check that sex offender list, I'm 100% sure in this building, there are probably more than 10 people who are on that list. And so then if you're walking unknowing to the people that are on this sex offender list, you don't realize they got traumas. And at the end of the day, they'll give you lip service because they don't want you to figure out what they've been through and what their life story is and the issues that they're dealing with. But they're not going to be willing to go and step up because of the crimes they committed, the wrongs they've done to people, whether it's to family members. I've heard me, when I came into the art scene, I intervened in a few domestic violence situations. I was around a bunch of sisters. I heard stories about uncles. I heard stories about cousins. I heard stories about stepfathers. Like, and those are the people, like a brother like me, I may know some of these people, not knowing nothing that this man is doing, and I'm trying to build with this brother, like, yo, brother, come do this, and I'm not knowing why this brother doesn't want to come together. This brother got skeletons in his closet that he can't deal with because he has never even admitted, he's never apologized. He's probably in denial of what he did. And so it gets real heavy when we talk about how do we move forward to start progressing with all these issues that we have. And so I think it's more important for brothers who don't have these skeletons to really start stepping up. They may not be equipped, like you said, everybody's not equipped to deal with certain situations, but we got to start finding a way to equip ourselves with these. Joshua, who's been on closed captions a few times, I hit him up last week and told him that, these 4 years of me hanging out with him and having conversations about how to deal with these certain situations. And it gave me the confidence to mediate personal family issues. I never had that confidence before, to stand before my elders and they're arguing. And I say, yo, hold up. We got kids in the crib. I need to mediate this situation. And it was because I'm around all these people with like minds who have these conversations that I started to acquire the skills to be able to mediate and had the confidence to talk to people older than me and say, look, set this out. All right, you guys had a communication error. And this is why y'all throwing dirt at each other, because y'all can't find a way to go and mediate properly. So I think we need mediators. We need people who need to be equipped with the skills to go and de-escalate situations when they're going on. Then we can start going into the skeletons in our closet, like the R. Kellys, like the Bill Cosbys. But if we keep going on all this emotion, we're never going to be able to really get to the bottom of the barrel and figure out how we're going to devise a plan.
Okay. So.
Can I speak to one thing?
Sure.
You said if you were to see someone outside of the high school, what have you, like that. A large part of my job is making sure that students who have special needs are given the services that they're legally supposed to get. And oftentimes, if they're not progressing at a certain rate around this time of the school year, from January to March, we'll start talking about possible retentions. And retention for me is a big issue, because if I retain a black boy 2 years, by the time he's in high school, he's 16, 17 years old. That means he's around 13, 14-year-old girls. And by the time he's a senior in high school, he's 20 to 21 years old. And he's around 17, 18-year-old girls. And so these are things that really start the practice very early of pedophilia, because these are his peers. And he's interacting in a social context with these younger girls, but he's not interacting with women his own age, or girls his own age, if you will. And these are things that already prime him. And that's not even counting if he has experienced any type of trauma or seen any type of trauma. And if he has, that just adds to the opportunity to say, what's up? Can I talk to you? Blah, blah. And so I just wanted to add that other piece of just like the culture that we're in. There are some things that in our community are adding to our trauma, but there's systematic things that are also putting us in positions where it's like, oh, it's just real easy. That's your classmate. Just talk to your classmate when you're 2-3 years older than your classmate. So I wanted to just add that piece.
Okay. Because I know you're gonna touch on it. We're gonna take the last two, Natasha and Osiris. We're gonna have y'all speak, and I want you to also give with whatever you're gonna say, what you see, because you both touched on sort of solutions. Any solutions you see also with effectively being your brother and sister's keeper. I was paying attention to what y'all said, so there was no need for me to actually have to say it again. So any solutions added into whatever your responses would be to these, and then we're going to do the remix portion of it. So
I guess what I was going to touch on is a part of a solution. I think one of the biggest issues with this specific problem that R. Kelly was participating in is we don't have honest conversations in society about sexuality, and that poses a huge issue. Like, if from the jump sex is always a private thing that nobody is really having any honest convo about, then when somebody is a victim of sexual violence, especially in the realm of statutory rape, they don't even know that they're a victim because they don't even understand their own sexuality. And so when somebody who has the sickness of pedophilia, or somebody who's trying to take advantage of them they don't even know they're being taken advantage of. I mean, at the end of the day, even knowing what I know now, if I was 13 again and I saw, because I've seen it, like 13-year-old girls leaving with 18-year-old, or 19-year-old boys from school, my 13-year-old self probably wouldn't have anything to say, because like there was never any like conversation that was normalized around saying something about that, you know? And so I think us having honest, and it's difficult, because sex is not a comfortable thing, you know what I mean? Like, even I consider myself to be, for the most part, sex positive, and I'm okay with having conversations about different types of sexuality. But even still, like, that's not comfortable for even me. And so to have it be a broad thing, or something that parents are having with children, or friends are having amongst each other, and on a serious level, like, that's mad difficult. And then even now in this era where people are becoming, with a spectrum of types of sexuality and types of genders, where that spectrum is broadening in the mainstream, I think it's even more important that we're touching on what these things mean, because at the end of the day, sex is how all of us got here. And so it's kind of crazy that the thing that brought all of us here is one of the quietest conversations in the world. And so I think it's like really important for us to talk more about sexuality, make it normal, so that when these situations happen, it's not anxiety about it. It's like, oh nah, bro, you wildin', like 13, 25, what are you doing? Rather than, oh, he likes me, or whatever's happening, you know what I mean? I think we just have honest sex conversations.
No,
I agree. Definitely talking about it, being open about it, because again, the victims are being shamed, and something, you're holding it back because you're feared of talking about it. It's gonna put you in some type of, predicament type of thing. So that's one part. The victims continue to talk about their story. I feel like parenting. I feel like there needs to be some type of plan around parenting, and some type of workshop, because I feel like in the first place, even in the Hartman situation, why is your kid going out all type of night with, where's the parents? But that's a big part of it. And also some type of plan for the victims. Not for the victims, but for the offenders. Because I feel like they just kill them off with their head.
So you mean some sort of rehabilitation of sorts? Okay. I like those answers. Do y'all want to add any quick things, or are you good with, because you delved into it? Okay, so
I kind of deep dived in.
All right, so that's the main portion of our discussion. Of course, we could go on forever, but we're not, because we all got lives, and so do the people who are watching. So what we're gonna do is end it on our fun note, this is the the remix section. And remix is basically where I ask a fun question, and it has nothing to do with anything that we just discussed at all. It is completely unrelated. It's always to end on a positive note, a happy note, so people aren't left in case we got too serious, left depressed, upset, or thinking too heavy. But thought is always good. So, remix. This is going to be a group remix question. So you don't have to necessarily give an individual answer. This is going to be a collective answer because you are all responsible for what happens. So how many of you have seen the movie Bird Box?
I have not.
Okay. Well,
Janelle's face.
let's put it like this. So essentially, something catastrophic has happened. You don't know what it is. Let's say end of the world, almost catastrophic. Like everything is going crazy outside. You end up in a house with some other people. All you've seen, without me ruining it, because I don't know who's going to be watching or whatever, you've seen, people dying. You don't know why they're dying. You don't know what it is. You just know everybody's running and trying to get away. It's a big pandemic. You get inside, everybody's like, close the windows, don't look outside, don't do nothing. But you don't know what's happening. There's no news reports that are giving you answers as to what's happening. There's no radio that's telling you exactly what's happening or what is causing everything. You're inside, all four of you, and then let's say you're all related. And let's say your mother is knocking on the outside door and yelling to come in. And there are other people who are already in the household who are saying, no, do not open that door. If you open that door, you might die. What do you do collectively? Do you go to open the door?
So my mama outside?
Your mom, or at least that's what you think.
She is. Nah, man, she gotta stay.
Outside? She gotta stay outside?
You being honest?
Yeah, you gotta be honest.
Like people dying
This is a collective question.
And
So this is your brother and your sisters who are also, that's their mother too. So collectively,
bro, she gotta stay outside.
okay, so he says she gotta stay outside.
Well, how we all got in the house and mom didn't get in the house?
Right.
I don't know if that's really her.
She's slow.
No.
You called mom on the phone. Yo, we're all driving to the supermarket. Mom was like, I don't know what's going on. Something crazy is happening. And you like, hey, mom, meet us at Nay's house. We all going to Nay's house. So y'all all divert the car and y'all all meet up at Nay's house before mom gets there. And y'all like, where's mom? I don't know. She said she was on her way over here. But when y'all get there, people are like, do not answer the door. No matter what you do, I don't care what it is, don't answer the door. But then you hear your mom knock and ask to come in. What do you do?
Call
That's
her.
what I'm saying.
She pick up and she says me outside. I'm let her in.
Why don't you have a key?
Why,
Oh, it's not her house.
Nay's house.
why are we not letting her in?
How she got the Nate house though? Hold on, how she got the Nate house? We gave her directions, or she just like, yo, I'm gonna ask questions.
Wait.
Y'all all know how to get there.
Okay,
Y'all all know how to get there.
I'm just asking the people outside why I can't let her in.
She's coming in.
And they're telling you.
I feel like she's coming in.
So y'all feel like she's coming in.
Yeah.
Wait, is this a,
Like,
talking
are
about
we in an
the
apartment
context of
complex?
Just real quick, the comments, everybody's like, this is a trick question.
That's what I'm saying. Is we an apartment complex? Like,
No,
Alright,
it's a
alright.
house. It's a house. It's a
In the
house.
context
No
of
apartment.
the movie,
I haven't seen
that's
it.
a different question. You feel me?
No, but this is
I'm not
why I
saying-
gave you don't know what's happening
so
yet.
saying, like,
That's why I
so-
said it.
Yo, we got a house.
There are people who
Let her in.
I'm not letting
Sorry.
Nah, bro. You
Yeah,
can't
it's
open
like
the door.
that's.
Can't
I
open the
can't.
door.
I have to. You feel me? Like that's mom dudes.
so
Yeah, you could leave then, bro.
so
So y'all gonna kill me then.
You could go out. You can't come in. Man. Nobody
Y'all
coming
kill
in.
me.
so
Mom's coming in.
you said mom's is coming in. You said mom gotta stay outside. What do y'all say?
I haven't seen the movie or whatever, but
I'm letting her mother in.
Y'all bugging. So
But you-
y'all gonna get us killed.
I mean, that's how we going now.
My
I mean,
mom-
if that's right. If everybody's dying, what I look like
Everybody's
living without my
dying.
mother? Oh, I let my mother
Exactly.
die.
Like, what's
Nah,
like, there's
that's
nothing
not
like that for
living,
me, bro. I'm
like-
not into this whole dystopian making it
Right?
happy shit.
Ooh, what's the next, man? The next journey out out here.
Our ancestors
wait.
said we can keep going.
We got 2 for mom, 1 for not. What is your saying?
I guess we're still all and gonna get mom. But,
Okay, so
but
we
you're
got.
not even mom though. So.
But
That's
okay,
what
so
I'm saying. I
so
was
that's
It's making you think it's not mom. Like you hear her voice. I don't know. I haven't seen
people
the movie,
have
so-
Don't
told
open up the
people
door.
saying
People
don't
think-
open up the door regardless of what you hear. And
But
that-
are they saying that what you hear is not?
they're just saying they don't know.
She gotta
Just
go
don't
too.
open
You
the
gotta
door.
go. Can I vote her
Yeah,
out
ask
too?
some questions. Try to go through something.
She
This
asked
is
my
the whole
question.
point.
You
That's what I'm
said
saying.
you gonna ask all the questions.
This
I
don't
can't
sound
ask
like
questions.
community to me.
Nah, I'm asking him
Who
the
made the album
question.
The Velvet Rope?
You asking questions like, yo, should we let her in or
What
not?
time
I'm
is
like,
it?
yo, I gotta go.
If they don't know the answer to that, then I'm wrong.
Said I
Make
will
the album
never.
The Velvet Rope.
Who made the
Thank
Velvet
you.
Rope?
That's a little bit more
You feel me?
realistic.
If she,
Janet!
you know that. Whatever this demon is not gonna know.
See, so now, okay, so
Yakub is not gonna know that it was Janet.
so Janelle, you seem
We can't just let her,
indifferent at this point.
like, we can't
I'm
just
letting
let
my mom in.
Oh, you still
Yeah.
you still
You
let
can't just
mom
let
in.
mom in. Yo, you gotta get some salt on the doorway. You gotta get some sage out. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not just
so I
opening
can do
the
some
doors.
trivia.
Give
But-
mom some trivia, like if you know mom
Yeah.
shit, then of course.
I need y'all to
If
get
she don't
I
know,
need y'all to
then
get the
it's
Florida
sad.
water out and all of that.
Yeah.
So-
I can't just let her in.
You both have seen the movie.
Yeah, I seen the movie.
Without me ruining anything, if I give you a little insight into the movie, is that okay? Because I don't know if you want to watch it.
I'm not gonna watch it.
Okay.
I'm not gonna watch it either.
Whatever the thing is, which they discuss in the movie, you can't look at it. If you do, it basically causes you to kill yourself.
See?
So you don't know, and it calls to you in the voices of people you may know. So now you know the premise. Now you know what it is. Do you open the door?
Hell no.
Trivia. Was
That's
the demon
That's what I'm saying. Get the
See,
Florida
as a
water
plot,
out.
because like, what does the demon know about the world?
But
that
you
we
never
live in?
know.
You know what I mean?
Like,
Yo,
maybe they
grab
take
all your
on mom
crosses, grab your cowrie shell, get everything you got to go. We gonna ask her some questions, and then when she shows up to the door, spray her, throw some holy water, Florida water, sage her. I'm like, all right. If she passed all that, then all right.
So here's
Or
my
let's take
question.
on
You
your mom's
said,
memory and all that stuff.
but there you
See?
go. You don't know
That's
this,
it.
right? You don't know. And you say you're not for the dystopian future, survival, whatever.
I'm probably
So,
commit suicide the next day anyway. So,
so Janelle, what say
What's
ye?
left for us?
Virus, you know. It's
So-
like,
so you
okay,
still
everybody
get
else
mom?
in the world is done. Yeah, you know, I would give her some trivia for it, like who are you? When was I born? Things like that. But
If you earned it, you killed
yeah, I mean,
You earned it.
Are you down with the trivia for mom? You gonna
I'm
give
not
mom
with
trivia?
trivia, but
I'm still watching you. Like, if it's not my mom, like, is it our mom? Is they mom?
No, y'all are. This is what I'm saying. Y'all are
I'm watching
related.
your mom.
It's y'all are related.
From like this.
Yo, I was if I'm under the assumption that we all related.
I'm a cousin, and then y'all let your moms
we
in.
are
I'm
all
watching my
related.
Watching my auntie.
Like, yo, I don't even know
If
that's
you're not
auntie.
related to me, it's really
Everybody who's commenting has pretty much said we letting moms in. So I don't.
Janelle said we gonna die, let moms in. David said moms is coming in. She gonna whoop my ass if I'm not opening
Right,
that door.
and then that's
Grown man or
like,
not.
I'm like coming back,
It's
two in my
gonna be
ass, so
like,
you ain't let me in?
The
Oh, alright.
Are you his sister's
Like,
keeper?
why we hit me with that one?
So y'all, for the most part, except for the skeptic,
So I'm watching the whole time. So
Are letting-
anybody got let in through that door, son. I'm not playing no games.
okay. So we let's say it's not mom's, and let's say it's just a close childhood friend.
Now everybody said no.
If it's a close child,
Mm-hmm.
I might still let them in.
yeah, that's good. Trivia.
Nah, B.
Most
So we
likely.
got 2 no's and 2 yeses.
I'll do some trivia. I mean,
Trivia.
you know.
Earn
It's
it.
not
You gotta
it's
earn
not
it.
an
Where do we
emphatic
need-
yes, you know what I mean? Like it was for my mom.
So let's say you managed to somehow get a glimpse outside the door or outside the window, and they're asking trivia questions. And it's answering the trivia questions, but you don't see nobody at the door. Do you try and convince them and tell them?
Nah.
I'm gonna be like, let me see.
So you let them open the door?
My nigga, I already devised my plan about how I'm gonna lock out I'm going to a separate room. Like whoever was like let them in, they could go on the south wing. I'm on the north wing, and we just y'all do y'all thing over there. And like, nah, B, I'm not playing no games. I don't play like that.
No, Baker said, nah, son.
Okay, so last piece to this question, and then we're gonna close it out. Everybody can, say their outro, reintroduce yourselves before we go. But y'all gotta go on a supply run because y'all ran out of food. Who's the first one to volunteer to leave?
The person who put mama in. I'm not laughing.
Cyrus, I feel like
they already risk taking. They might as well go. They out here living the wild life. YOLO.
Guess what? I'm distributing them shits. And I'm deciding who's getting what.
YOLO, go do your thing, my shit.
So do you feel like you could survive in a situation like this though?
I already got a plan already.
So if you couldn't see, you have a plan already to be able to survive.
Yeah, I already got like the location and everything. Like, me and my homies, like we talked this out already.
Oh, okay.
Say, oh wow, okay.
I got a gas mask in the crib and all that.
Oh my goodness. That's good.
He got his bug out bag somewhere close.
I got 2 gas masks.
Okay, Janelle?
I have been prepared in the past. I'm not prepared in New York. In DC, I was CCER certified.
Oh, okay.
I know I was really bug out bag ready. I could make water if you ain't, you know what I mean? But I ain't got ready in New York. I have to get ready though. This is a bigger city to be ready for. So
Be honest
I know what I need to do. I haven't put it into
If
action.
that happens in New York, we in trouble anyway.
I mean, if it happens in DC, we in trouble too.
There's too many people too close together.
I feel you.
I feel like if you in New York, that's one of the best places because food is everywhere. So you're gonna have a lot of resources.
There you go.
Well, check this out. You can't be vegan in dystopia, alright? You think you're gonna be vegan when the world is over?
I'm eating leaves.
No, you're not.
Frying up some leaves with some nice dirt. Natasha, do you feel you be good?
No, I'm not prepared.
You're not prepared at all?
Immediate no.
So, do you feel, okay, I have to ask this last thing and then I promise I'm done. Do you feel you're better off alone or in a group?
In a group. Nah, in a group.
In a group?
Yeah.
Alone.
Alone?
Wait, you just said you're not prepared, right?
That's why she's not prepared.
People gonna make stupid decisions that I don't want to be a part of it.
There are a lot of people who survive in post-apocalyptic or, dystopian futures by being on their own.
They straight savage.
They're definitely, and they are usually the ones, like, take a look at Michonne in The Walking Dead. Like, she rolled up real thorough with 2 zombies on chains. Like,
It's a movie though, bro.
but in real life, like, those people who stay away from the rest of the people are the ones who don't get infected and don't die.
Listen, man,
Yeah,
you
they
gotta
train
grow.
those.
You interview people, man. Fill them out. See where their head is at.
Before it happens.
You gotta do that.
While
it's
it's
like so in the movie, while you in the crib, like you feel people out where their head is at. Like, okay, boom, all right, we're gonna have to kill this one. But I think this one is good. You feel me? Like
That's why I be on my own.
you feel me?
I already got the location, but we streaming live, so I can't. Like,
I feel like y'all breeding enemies, though. Like, you doing the interview process, you and me interviewing
Nah,
friends
but
and
you don't
enemies.
do it like it's an interview. Like, you just talking to people like, word, you feel me? Like you just having convo and you collecting that info and
feel
you
like
listening to them talk.
Trust then starts. Don't you think somebody might be doing that to you at the same time?
Well, I'm gonna know if they doing it to me. I know what I'm doing.
Interview. Will Smith, I Am Legend. Just me and my dog. All right, so we're gonna end it on that note with our always interesting remix question. The next time we'll have another thoroughly interesting topic followed by another ridiculous remix question. I know y'all probably won't see Bird Box.
It's worth it.
It's worth a watch just to laugh. But anyway, just to laugh. There are a couple black people in it,
John Malkovich is my favorite character. He had me dying all the time.
So we're going to start from left to right, my left, your right, and we're going to reintroduce ourselves and then we'll close it out.
Isakari, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter. Matter of fact, just go to my website, isakari.photography. ISSAKHARI. I'm a street photographer, visual journalist, and your neighbor.
Will you be my neighbor?
I'm Janelle Naomi. You can also find me everything Janelle Naomi and at JanelleNaomi.com.
Excellent.
Osiris Anthem, you can find me at Marooned Waters on Instagram, MaroonWaters, and my handle is spelled OSYRISANTHAM on SoundCloud, Bandcamp, Facebook. Boom.
All right.
Natasha Dizoni, Natasha_Dizoni, DEZONIE, and my new business page, which is holistic with a K at the end _living project.
Excellent. So thank you guys once again for coming out. The behind the scenes people are me, myself, the One Will Focus, at the One Will Focus on everything because I like consistency. So yeah, that's me, and.com. And
I'm Nay Marie at Taji Magazine on everything and tajimag.com. And collectively, we are Closed Captions, CC the series, everywhere.
And that is it for this month's session. Join us next month when we'll discuss aliens invading the Earth and how we want to handle all that good stuff.
Thank
Love
you to
all this
everybody
melanin.
who joined us live, and we appreciate. They pointed that out. They were like, "Ooh, loving all this melanin on this panel."
Yeah. Facts.
So thank you guys for joining us in person, and for everybody who joined us live. We love you and appreciate
Brown skin unite. We out.
you. Peace.